I thought my parents called to check on me. Turns out they just needed to check my bank account. The conversation started with, "How have you been?" and ended with a spreadsheet of overdue bills pushed across the table toward me. No transition, no apology. Just an assumption that had been decades in the making. My father cleared his throat and said the words I'd heard my entire life in different forms. "You've always been good with money. You don't have our responsibilities. You can handle this." And for a split second, I almost nodded. Almost said yes. Almost became the solution to a problem I didn't create. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the way my mother wouldn't meet my eyes. Maybe it was my brother sitting there silent, relieved it wasn't him being asked. Or maybe it was just exhaustion. The kind that builds quietly over years, until one day you realize you've been holding up a structure that was never meant to rest on your shoulders alone. Before I tell you what I did next, hit that like button, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and subscribe if you've ever felt like the family ATM. Because what happened after that dinner changed everything. My name is Claire, and I need you to understand something. I wasn't the rebellious kid. I wasn't the one who caused problems or pushed boundaries. I was the easy one. The one who got good grades without being asked. The one who worked through college so I wouldn't burden anyone. The one who moved to Boston for a job and sent money home when things got tight, which they always did. My parents didn't raise me to be independent. They raised me to be reliable. And there's a difference. Independence means you can stand on your own. Reliability means everyone else can lean on you. I learned early that my role in the family wasn't daughter. It was resource. When I was 16, my mother sat me down and told me my brother needed help with his car payment. Just this once. She said it like a favor, like I was being included in something important. I gave him $200 from my summer job. He never paid me back. No one ever mentioned it again. When I graduated college, my parents didn't attend. My father's back was hurting. My mother didn't want to leave him alone. My brother had plans he couldn't cancel. I walked across that stage and took photos with my roommate's family. They were kind. They clapped, but they weren't mine. I told myself it didn't matter, that I was fine. That needing things made you weak, and I believed it because I had to. The pattern continued. Small requests that added up. A few hundred here, 1,000 there, always temporary, always urgent, always wrapped in language that made saying no feel cruel. We wouldn't ask if we had another option. You know we're proud of you. Family takes care of family, and I did. I took care of them, I took care of everything. I paid for repairs and medical bills and once an entire month's mortgage when my father's hours got cut. I never asked for updates. I never asked for timelines. I just gave. And every time I did, the message was reinforced. This is what you're for. When I moved into my own apartment, my mother asked why I needed so much space. When I got promoted, my father joked that I'd better not forget where I came from. When I started setting money aside for my own future, my brother called it selfish. Not to my face. I heard it secondhand from a cousin. Apparently I was doing well, so why wouldn't I help more? The math in their heads was simple. I had it. They needed it. What else mattered? But the math in my life was different. I was 32 and had no emergency fund because every emergency became mine. I was tired in a way sleep couldn't fix. And I was starting to realize that generosity without boundaries isn't love. It's self-erasure. Then came the dinner. My mother called and said they wanted to see me. I drove 3 hours. I brought wine. I thought maybe this time would be different. Maybe they missed me. Maybe we'd just talk. I was wrong. My father started with small talk, work, weather, traffic. Then he shifted. His tone changed, got heavier. We need to talk about something serious. My mother placed her hand on his. My brother looked at his phone. And then it came. The full picture. Credit card debt that had compounded for years. A second mortgage they'd taken out and couldn't manage. Medical bills from my father's surgery that insurance didn't cover. The numbers were staggering. I sat there listening, and the whole time I kept waiting for the part where they'd explain what they were going to do. But that part never came. Instead, they looked at me. My mother spoke first. her voice soft, careful. "We know you've worked hard, we know you've been smart with money, and we thought maybe you could help us figure it out, like it was a puzzle we'd solve together, except I knew what that meant." I'd seen this script before. My father leaned forward, elbows on the table. "You're in a stable place. No kids, no debt. You've got options we don't have." My brother finally looked up. "It's a lot, Claire, but if anyone can handle it, it's you." There it was. The compliment that wasn't. The expectation dressed as faith in me. I felt my chest tighten. Felt that old reflex kick in. The one that made me want to fix it, to smooth it over, to prove I was worth keeping around. But then I looked at the papers spread out in front of me, at the timeline of choices I hadn't made, at the consequences I was expected to carry, and I felt something else, clarity. I took a slow breath and asked a question they weren't ready for. What happens if I say no? The silence that followed wasn't just quiet, it was suffocating. My mother blinked like I'd spoken a language she didn't recognize. My father's face hardened, confusion shifting into something closer to offense. My brother set his phone down slowly, finally giving me his full attention. "What do you mean?" my mother said carefully. "I mean," I repeated, keeping my voice even, "what's the plan if I don't help?" My father sat back in his chair, arms crossing. "That's not really a question you ask family, Claire." "Isn't it?" I said, "because I've been asking myself a different question. Why am I always the only option?" My brother scoffed. "You're not the only option. You're just the one who can actually do something." And there it was. Not asked, told. I looked at each of them, really looked, and saw something I'd been avoiding for years. They weren't asking for help. They were collecting what they believed I owed. My mother reached across the table, her fingers stopping just short of mine. "We raised you. We gave you everything. You wouldn't be where you are without us." I didn't pull away. I just met her eyes. "You're right. You raised me. And what you taught me was that my worth is measured by what I can give you." She pulled her hand back. "That's not fair. Maybe not," I said, "but it's true." My father's voice cut in, sharper now. "So what, you're just going to walk away? Let us lose everything?" I didn't answer right away. I wanted to. I wanted to shout or cry or make them understand how much I'd already given. But I knew it wouldn't matter. They weren't listening for understanding. They were listening for compliance. Instead, I said something I'd never said before. "I need time." "Time for what?" my brother asked. His tone had an edge. "To think," I said simply. "This is a lot of money, a lot of responsibility. I need to understand what I'm stepping into." My father looked at me like I'd just insulted him. "You're making this more complicated than it needs to be." "No," I said, standing up. "I'm making it exactly as complicated as it is." I didn't wait for a response. I picked up my bag, thanked them for dinner, and walked out. My hands didn't start shaking until I got to my car. I sat there in the driveway, engine off, staring at the house I grew up in. The lights were still on inside. I could see shadows moving behind the curtains, and I realized something that made my stomach drop. If I helped them the way they wanted, this wouldn't be the last time. It would just be the biggest. So I made a decision. I wasn't going to save them. I was going to teach them what accountability looked like. The next morning, I called a financial advisor. Not for them, for me. I needed to know exactly where I stood, what helping would cost, and what protecting myself required. The conversation was clarifying. She walked me through scenarios, showed me projections, explained terms like liability and co-signing and financial abuse. That last term made me pause. Financial abuse. I'd never thought of it that way. But as she explained patterns of expectation, guilt, and repeated requests without reciprocity, something in me cracked open. This wasn't love. It was extraction. By the end of the week, I had a plan. It wasn't the plan they wanted. But it was the only one I could live with. I called my mother and told her I'd come back that weekend. She sounded relieved, grateful. She probably told my father I'd come to my senses. When I walked in the following Saturday, the energy was different, lighter. They thought the hard part was over. My mother hugged me at the door. My father smiled. My brother was already sitting at the table, relaxed, like we were about to discuss vacation plans. I set my bag down and pulled out a folder, a thick one. My father glanced at it, then at me. What's that? A proposal, I said. If I'm going to help, we're doing this the right way. My mother's smile faltered. The right way, she repeated slowly. I opened the folder and slid the first page toward them. This is a loan agreement. My brother laughed. He actually laughed. A loan agreement. Claire, we're family. Exactly, I said. And I'm not going to let family destroy my financial future. The room shifted. The warmth drained. My father picked up the paper and scanned it, his jaw tightening with each line. This has interest, he said. Yes. Market rate, nothing predatory, just standard. My mother looked hurt. You're going to charge us interest. I looked at her directly. Banks charge interest. Friends charge interest. If you want my money, it comes with terms. My brother shook his head, disbelief all over his face. This is insane. You're treating us like strangers. No, I said, I'm treating this like what it is. A financial transaction. Because every time I've treated it like family, I've been the only one who lost something. My father pushed the paper back toward me. We're not signing this. That's your choice, I said calmly. Then I can't help you. The air went still. My mother's eyes filled. So you're just going to let us drown? I didn't flinch. I'm offering you a life raft. You just don't like the terms. My brother stood up. You know what, Claire, maybe we don't need your help after all. Good, I said. Then we don't have a problem. But before anyone could say anything else, I pulled out the second page. There's more. My father stared at me. What else could there possibly be? Conditions, I said. If you take this loan, you also agree to financial counseling. Monthly check-ins. No new major purchases without consultation. And my name never goes on anything. No cosigns, no joint accounts. Nothing. My mother looked like I'd slapped her. You don't trust us. I trust patterns, I said quietly. And the pattern is this. You ask, I give, nothing changes. Then you ask again. My father's face turned red. So you're punishing us? I shook my head. I'm protecting me. For the first time in my life, I'm choosing me. And if that feels like punishment, maybe that tells you something. My brother sat back down, silent now. My mother wiped her eyes. My father stared at the papers like they were written in another language. And I stood there, heart pounding, knowing I'd just set a boundary I could never take back. Nobody spoke for a long time. The kind of silence where you can hear the clock ticking, the hum of the refrigerator, the weight of everything unsaid finally crashing down. My mother folded her hands in her lap, staring at them like they held answers. My father kept his eyes on the papers, jaw working but no words coming out. My brother looked between them, waiting for someone to take charge, to fix this, the way someone always had. But no one did, because the person who always fixed things was me. And I wasn't doing it anymore. Finally, my father spoke. His voice was quiet, strained. You really mean this? Every word, I said. He nodded slowly, not in agreement, but in something closer to resignation. And if we don't sign, then you figure it out without me. I'm not angry. I'm not punishing anyone, but I'm also not lighting myself on fire to keep you warm anymore. My mother's voice cracked when she spoke. We never asked you to do that. You didn't have to ask, I said gently. You just expected. And I provided, over and over. Until I had nothing left to give. She looked up at me then, really looked, and for a second I thought she might understand. Might see how much I'd bent, how close I'd come to breaking. But then my brother cut in. So that's it. You're just done with us. No, I said, turning to him. I'm done being used. There's a difference. He stood again, shaking his head. This is unbelievable. You act like we've been bleeding you dry. Haven't you? I asked. He froze. I kept going. When's the last time you paid me back for anything? When's the last time anyone in this family asked what I needed, what I was going through? When's the last time my success wasn't just seen as a resource you could tap? Silence. I pulled out the final document and set it on top of the others. This is a payment plan. It's realistic. It's manageable. And it's the only way I'm involved. My father picked it up. His hands were shaking slightly. You've really thought this through. I've had to, I said, because no one else was going to. My mother stood and walked to the window, arms wrapped around herself. I don't know if I can do this, she said quietly. You don't have to, I replied. But if you want my help, these are the terms. Take the weekend. Think it over. Talk to each other. And if you decide you'd rather find another way, I'll respect that. My father looked up at me, something unreadable in his eyes. And if we sign, then we do this right. No shortcuts, no exceptions. You follow the plan, you meet with the counselor, and you rebuild. And I'll be there not as your fallback, but as someone who actually wants to see you succeed. I picked up my bag. I'll be back Monday. You can let me know then. As I walked toward the door, my mother turned. Claire. I stopped. Are you really okay with losing us over this? I looked at her, and I felt a sadness that was old and deep, but also strangely clean. I'm not losing you, Mom. I'm finding myself. And if you can't love me without needing something from me, then maybe we were already lost. I didn't wait for a response. I walked out, got in my car, and drove back to Boston. And for the first time in years, I didn't cry. I didn't feel guilty. I felt clear. That Monday, my phone rang. It was my father. We signed, he said. No preamble, no explanation. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. Okay. There's going to be a notary appointment Wednesday. I'll send the details. He was quiet for a moment. Then, almost too quiet to hear, he said, we didn't know. I closed my eyes. I know, but now you do. The months that followed weren't easy. My parents struggled with the counselor, resistant at first, defensive. My brother stopped speaking to me for a while, convinced I'd humiliated them. But slowly, things shifted. My mother started budgeting. My father took a part-time job he'd been too proud to consider before. They made payments. Small ones at first, but consistent. And somewhere in that process, something unexpected happened. They started talking to me differently, not as a solution. As a person, my mother called one night just to ask how I was, not how work was, not if I could help with something, just how I was. I almost didn't know how to answer. The loan got paid back, not quickly, but fully. And when the final payment cleared, my father sent me a text. Just 3 words. Thank you, Claire. I stared at those words for a long time, because they weren't just thanking me for the money. They were thanking me for the boundary, for forcing them to grow, for not enabling them into deeper failure. I didn't respond right away. I sat with it, let it settle. Then I typed back, you're welcome, we're still not perfect. We're still learning how to be a family where everyone carries their weight, but we're trying. And that's more than I ever thought I'd have. If you've ever been the strong one, the reliable one, the one everyone turns to until there's nothing left of you, I need you to hear this. Setting boundaries isn't cruelty, it's clarity. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is stop saving people from the consequences of their own choices. Drop a comment if this hit home. Tell me your story. And subscribe because there's a lot more where this came from. You're not alone. And you're not wrong for protecting yourself. Sometimes becoming the bank they fear is the only way to stop being the account they drain.